everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Keep your questions coming in. You can also email me, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com, or call or text 949-415-6256. So today's video is going to be about a topic, because I've been telling you guys, I've been getting a lot of questions about business and clinical research, specifically people who want to start a research business, right? Most of them clinical research sites or SMOs. A few like recruitment firms, and then there's some consultants out there, but business in general. So today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of having business partners, and we can spend a whole lot of time on what kind of partners you may want to target, and then also the pros and cons of having partners in general. Partners period, right? So a lot of you may or may not know that, or you may or may not have heard that getting into business with a partner is kind of the equivalent of marrying them. I mean, you're pretty much stuck with them for life unless the business goes bankrupt or it dissolves, which is not necessarily what you want to have happen, right? There are a lot of pros, however. My firm, DSCS, Sweat Equity and Investments, besides consulting, where we help research clinics get studies, recruit patients, recruit doctors, create SOPs, source docs, negotiate budgets, all that stuff that we do as consultants, we also partner with sites. So that's where the equity in our name comes into play. We actually partner with the research clinics out there who are either in the startup phase or they want to expand their business, and they think that if they align themselves with someone else, they can accomplish their goals quicker. And so there definitely are pros and cons to doing that as well. I probably would not partner with anyone just because it's a lot simpler. However, it's not a perfect world, and partnership makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for many different reasons. Number one, you could leverage different individual strengths and talents. If financing becomes an issue, you can leverage or use one of the partners as the one who's going to be providing the capital. If you're going to be partnering with a doctor, you can obviously leverage the fact that they're going to be referring patients, and that you can have them as the principal investigator for your study, so you don't have to worry about paying a PI cash. So there's a lot of positive and there's a lot of benefits to partnering with people. There's also a lot of cons. There's a lot of negatives. So this is why it's very important to be very careful and very selective about who you partner with. When you are the sole owner of a business, you can pretty much do anything you want with the money, especially if it's an LLC or an S Corp, right? And by the way, don't take any of this as legal advice. I am no attorney. I am not even a CPA, an accountant. I am not any of that stuff. I'm just someone who's been operating businesses for the last decade, a little longer than that. So as long as you have an LLC or an S Corp, not a C Corp, right? LLC or an S Corp, and you're the sole owner, those are called flow-through entities. What that means is all the revenue and the profits flow through the company to you. So basically the company just acts as a shield. They call it a corporate veil to protect you from liability from outsiders. So they can't personally sue you, they have to sue your company, right? Now, from an IRS perspective, any money that flows through to the company, if you're the sole proprietor or the sole business owner of the LLC or the S Corp, again, not the C Corp, that's not what we're talking about here, the revenue flows to you and you have no business partners to really be accountable for, so you can do whatever you want with the expenses. Like you can get a company car and lease it or buy it under the company name, even though you'll be using it. You can go out and purchase meals for yourself under the company name, and of course run all this by your CPA, vacations, travel, all that stuff. All of this that I just mentioned gets extremely complicated when you have partners, because now it's not just your money, right? the revenue is flowing through to them as well. So now they actually have to be legitimate business expenses. Now C corporations are completely different. So if you own a C corp and you're the only owner, C corps get double taxed. So they get taxed at the corporate level and they get taxed at the individual level. So you have to be a little more rigid when it comes to how you spend the money in a C corp, right? But I'm not going to get too complicated or overly complex in this video. I just wanted to tell you that's one of the pros of being a solo business owner, is you don't have anyone else to answer to except the IRS and your own accountant or your own CPA, who's there to guide you into what you can and can't spend your money on. Now, bring in partners. All that stuff I just talked about changes because you have a fiduciary responsibility to your business partners, especially if you're the operator, to make sure that you're using the company funds wisely. All right. When you're the only owner, you don't really have to do that, all right? Because whatever, you're the only owner, so you have a fiduciary responsibility to yourself. Another issue that occurs with partnering when you partner with other people is the fact that people start getting into disagreements about workload and who's responsible for doing what. And you may have one individual who, when you started the business with that person, they were very interested in contributing work. And a few years go by, maybe the business has been doing really well, or on the flip side, maybe it's been doing really bad and now they're not motivated. Maybe they're resting on their laurels. Could be a whole number of reasons, and then they stop contributing their fair share of work, yet they are still entitled to their percentage of the profits for the business. So I've had good and bad experiences in business, particularly in this clinical research industry with business partners. I continue to partner with people constantly, but I tell them that they've got to be very careful before we sign any of the final paperwork for the partnership, because partnerships are permanent. Oftentimes we have an exit plan in advance, like our goal is to sell the company, or our goal once we reach a certain milestone is we will sell our shares back to you, or vice versa, we will buy you out, or we have an option to buy you out. There's a lot of different creative things you can do. I guess the important thing is to be in agreement going into a partnership on exactly who's to do what and when, a financial incentive that they will be receiving for doing those tasks. So there's pros and cons to partnering with people in clinical research. I don't know what's right for you, only you know that, but just be very careful when partnering with someone. It could definitely help you out at the beginning, especially, it gets especially tempting when you bring someone on as a partner because they're going to finance everything. Because after that first 18 months, usually 18 months is a business's break-even point. After that first 18 months, they become less and less valuable because they've already contributed all their value up front when they finance the business. So what do you do in year 2, in year 3, in year 4, in year 5, when you're doing all the work and this person's basically collecting all the profits because they invested early on? So you got to have those things in place too, and have some kind of a written agreement in place in the contract. Same thing with a PI. Okay, you may partner with a PI because you don't want to pay a PI a certain salary, so you'd rather partner with them and just share the profits with them. What do you do if that PI loses their license? What do you do if that PI decides that they don't want to have a private practice anymore? What if you do if that PI decides they don't want to do research anymore? Okay, a number of these things are possible. They happen all the time. What do you do if the PI retires? There's so many different possibilities here, and you can just keep doing this exercise with any partner you pick, whatever their role is. You got to look at the worst case scenario. What can happen if they do this, or what can happen if they don't do this? What will happen to the business? You have to have all these things in place, in writing, have some kind of strategy, but there's definitely pros and cons to partnering with the people. So hopefully this helps answer your question. Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com, and take care.